It is 1 o'clock, and I will call this meeting of the
Recording in progress.
It is 1 o'clock, and I will call this meeting of the Douglas County Planning Commission to order. I would like to note that we have a quorum, although Mark Neddenrip is absent, and David Nelson will be joining us on Zoom. At this time, I would like to ask Bryce Klutz to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is time for public comment, and it will be taken on those items that are within the jurisdiction and control of the Planning Commission. It is requested that members of the public hold their comments on agenda items to when they are considered. If content is disruptive or disrespectful to commissioners, staff, or members of the public, the individual will be told to stop speaking and to sit down. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes, and you will be timed. First speaker, please come to the podium, write your name on the list, and state it for the record.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
We can't see inside the chambers, so Dave's not going to be able to see any presentations or what's going on.
Okay.
That's correct.
Could be.
Can you hear us?
I can hear fine.
Okay. So we can proceed with public comment?
Sure. Okay.
Is there any public comment at this time? Seeing no one rise, I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission. We will go for approval of the agenda. Are there any comments from the commissioners?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Bryce and a second from David. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll go for approval of the minutes. Are there any comments or corrections from the board?
Madam Chair, I just want to note that on the minutes that it did not show that I was absent from the meeting, the brief meeting on the day that we had the weather and the shutdown of the county. So I just wanted to note that I was absent from that meeting.
That's a big one. I did not catch that. I apologize to that. Did the clerk catch that? You made that a correction. Okay, do we have this down as one thing. With that correction, I think we should take this in 2 motions. Do we have a motion and a second for the minutes of March 14th?
Madam Chair, I would move that we approve the draft minutes of the March 14th meeting with Bryce's correction noting that he was absent for that meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Kirk, a second from Paul. And can I have a vote, please?
Aye.
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 Bryce?
Madam Chair, I'll abstain since I wasn't present at that meeting.
Okay, we have 4 ayes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 ayes and 1 abstention from Bryce. Now we need a motion and a second for the minutes on March 20th. Are there any comments or corrections? Seeing none, motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes of the March 20th, 2023 meeting of the Planning Commission.
Second, is there a second?
So moved.
Motion by Kirk, second by Bryce. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mark Neddenrip is absent. First public hearing for possible action, discussion on a request for a major variance, reference DP 23-0013, to reduce the required 20-foot rear yard setback to a 9-foot, 6-inch setback for a proposed single-family dwelling located at 209 Lyons Avenue in the R-063 zoning district in the Tahoe planning area. The applicant is James Borelli, Borelli Architecture, representing Jim and Maria Rios, APN 1418-34-111-026. Are there any disclosures to be made?
Madam Chair, I went to the site, I investigated the site, I met Maria and Jim Rios. They invited me into their house. I, from the windows inside their house, looked at the setbacks on the east, west, and south sides and the distances thereof, and then I departed. We did not discuss any of the merits of their application.
Are there any others? Lucille?
So, Madam Chair,
Cynthia?
I'm not sure that Commissioner Nelson.
Okay, we will do that. We will wait until he starts moving. We'll start with 5 minutes and hope he's back.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Dave, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I cannot see the chambers yet, though.
Okay, we're working on it. Thank you.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay, share screen.
Got a vicinity map. It appears that Tom can show his screen.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
David, can you see us?
I see the vicinity map on the screen.
That
Good.
works?
He can't see you, Maureen, but he'll be able to see the presentation, and that should be okay, I would assume.
I think so. Cynthia? That's what we want. Lucille, proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Lucille Rayo, Community Development. Okay. Major variance. This is the subject parcel. It is 209 Lyons Avenue. It's highlighted in blue. The plan area statement is R dash, I'm sorry, now I need my glasses, R dash 063. This is a site plan. You can find it and probably see it better in your packet, and that's packet page 134. Existing site conditions. So the existing house is a cabin. It currently sits at between 2.6 and 2.7 feet from the rear property line. The proposed setback will be further away from the setback, so it will be decreasing the nonconformity. Currently, the where the house sits is nonconforming, so the 9.6 foot setback would be more or less nonconforming. Floor plan, it is a 3-story house. They are trying to build something that would work for them as a family. They are planning to move to Tahoe. It is not a vacation home rental house. They do not have a vacation home rental permit. It is a 3-story home, as you can see here. And this is also on packet page 135, if you'd like to see it clearer in your packet. Elevations. So the house is narrow and tall, but it will meet Tahoe Regional Planning Agency's maximum height. The proposed height of this house is 35 feet and 4 inches. The neighboring homes, I pulled plans for the new subdivision behind them, Tahoe Glen. Those setbacks in the rear, the houses back there are 29.6 and, sorry, I can't see my thing, and 33 feet. So the two homes that sit behind the Rios parcel are pretty similar in height, a little bit underneath what they're proposing. A photo from along Lyons Avenue. The blue arrow shows the actual cabin as it stands today. This house behind it is the house. These houses back here are the ones I just talked about along Tahoe Glen in that new subdivision. As you can see, it's an older neighborhood. Most of these houses, well, this house, I believe, is from 1944. Some of the other houses along Lyons Avenue are from the 70s. Most of them here, are, as you can see, are cabins from many years ago. It's only a matter of time before people start building or adding on or, wanting new houses themselves. These are some photos from the rear homes along Lyons Avenue from Tahoe Glen. These are the houses on Tahoe Glen that we just looked at from the rear. So I'm just trying to orient you where we are as far as in relationship to the neighborhood, what's existing, what's height relationship. So this is along Tahoe Glen. This is that new subdivision behind the Rios residence. So the parcel is located in Cave Rock Village. It was a subdivision that was recorded in 1953. The actual house was constructed in 1944. Obviously, we're here today because they're requesting a variance because it does not meet today's setback standards for Douglas County Code. The current home is non-conforming. Non-conforming section of code allows the structure to remain, but it would not allow it to expand or be rebuilt in the current footprint. The variance request would actually make the new home more conforming, as the existing home sits at 2.6 and between 2.6 and 2.7 from the property line. There is some difficulty in meeting the setbacks due to the parcel size. It's 33 by 60. Lyons Avenue is encroaching on the parcel, which I'll show you. I have a slide for that. So the front setback for Tahoe is 20 foot from edge of pavement in the front. So Lyons Avenue is encroaching a little over 2 feet onto the Rios parcel. Also, Douglas County Code design criteria requires that the width of a dwelling be at least 20 feet at the narrowest point of its first story. So that's also a requirement. They would have to ask for a variance for that. That's not something that staff would necessarily support. Also in Tahoe, so in Tahoe, we have subdivisions that have setbacks on the final maps, but generally speaking, the setbacks in Tahoe for all parcels, most parcels that do not have setbacks is the 20 foot from edge of pavement in the front, 20 foot of the property line in the rear, and 7 foot on the sides. As opposed to down here in the valley, where we have subdivisions and different zoning, smaller parcels, like a parcel like this would probably be under the SFR 8000 zoning district, and the setbacks would be much less than the 20 foot in the front, 20 foot in the rear, and 7 foot on the sides. And then, of course, they have to request a major variance, and that's the code section. So the findings, planning, I feel like I'm missing a slide here. Sorry, I am missing something. In your packet, there is, I should tell you what packet, in your packet, there was there's a map of Lyons Avenue, the subdivision map, showing you that the width of Lyons Avenue is only 20 feet wide. It also shows that the setback, well, as I discussed, is 20 foot from edge of pavement in the front. So Lyons Avenue is encroaching onto the parcel. That's also another encumbrance for them. Let me just keep going on here. So pursuant to Douglas County Code Section 2606050B, the Planning Commission may not approve a variance unless all the following findings are made in the affirmative. Staff has evaluated and met the findings and is recommending Planning Commission approve development application DP 230013. Staff findings are on packet page 127 to 128. Public comment has been received. We received 2 items for public comment, which you have received. So staff supports the request and recommends the Planning Commission approve development application DP 23003, a major variance to allow for a reduced rear yard setback from 20 feet to 9 feet 6 inches for the construction of a new single-family dwelling. Questions?
Questions from the commission? Paul?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One question with respect to the property that's immediately behind. When I was there at the site, there is less than a 20-foot setback for many of those that face Tahoe Glen, that is the front, such that the, I don't know what the setback requirement was, but they're within, say, 10 feet.
Yes, Member Bruno. So the Tahoe Glen subdivision back there are building envelopes, and county code requires 10 feet between structures, and I believe the setback from the property line in the rear for those building envelopes is 5 feet.
It's 5 feet. That's so my perceptions are accurate. I didn't get out and measure it. I just looked up to the west and to the east, out the back. And that includes the houses that are, one of the comments comes from a house on 1204 Tahoe Glen Drive from the public. Ms. Jacob. And do you know which house that is behind the subject property?
In the photo here, so we have 1201, and that's probably 1203 next door. I don't have that. We could probably get on the GIS map if you really wanted me to dig
No.
into that. I wouldn't say that she's exactly behind them, based on the addressing, but the applicant or the owners might be able to confirm where that address might be located in relationship to the Rios residence.
But all of them did seem, and my perception was all of them on Tahoe Glen were 5 to 10 feet back from the property line. That's what it
That is
appeared.
correct.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Cynthia?
Cynthia Gregory from the Douglas County District Attorney's Office. To your point, that entire plan development came in, I believe, in 2010, and they requested a number of variances to setbacks. So that is why they don't have the 20-foot setback. They had a number of variances to setbacks, as well as having decks encroach back into the setbacks as well.
Thank you, ma'am. That also makes sense as to why they're all about the same and very close, all the way up the block.
Ken?
Yes, I had a question. Is this not going to set a precedent of all the homes being to be built this closely together? Because once you allow one person, is this going to continue, or is there only, this is only one special occasion that this is going to happen, or is this going to be something that happens continually in especially this neighborhood?
For the record, Lucio Rayo, that's a great question, Member Paxton. It's hard to say if you're setting a precedent. The neighbor could say, well, yes, you gave my neighbor a variance, so I want to request the same, and they have a right to request it. It's up to this commission to decide if it meets the findings or not. That's it's hard to say, but yeah, if they choose to, they could come forward for a variance as well.
Thank you.
Cynthia Gregory. Just for the record, obviously you would be concerned about setting a precedent, but the thing with variances as well as SUPs, you have to look at it on a property by property basis because each piece of property is different. And so if you were to say, are you setting a precedent? Up at Tahoe, based on the terrain and the way things were laid out back in the early 1900s or 1920s, the lots aren't as big and therefore don't conform. So technically, you wouldn't be setting a precedent because you have to evaluate each property on its own factors. But let's say the same exact layout was on the parcel next door. Then obviously, the same reasons you would find the variance applicable in this case would also apply to that one as well. So you aren't setting a precedence per se, is what I'm trying to say, is because you have to look at each piece of property that's unique.
Any other questions? Kirk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have three quick questions / observations, perhaps for Lucille and Cynthia and maybe Tom. First of all, on the conditions on page 128 of our packet, Lucille, you have 4 conditions, and I just want to make sure they're enunciated, particularly the last 2. So this project would have to receive approval from the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, so they would be acting at some point in the future. Is that correct?
For the record, Lucio Rayo, that's correct.
And then you've also conditioned it that the applicant and the owner must maintain 10 feet between all structures, including the neighboring structures. So that's a requirement that we're imposing on them for us allowing them the variance.
For the record, Lucio Rayo, that's correct. I put it in as a condition to make it very clear to the commission as well as the owners. We would require that anyway when the building permit came forward, but I just want to make it clear so everyone understands that we have safety, we're concerned about the safety and distance.
Thank you very much. And then Cynthia or Tom, tell me, this would, since it's a major variance, this would need to go to the Board of County Commissioners, or are we the final authority on this?
So you're the final authority on this because there's no accompanying application that's required to be heard by the board. So if in fact you are the final, however, if the applicant or somebody else disagreed, they could appeal it to the board.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lucille. I'd like to turn this over to the applicant.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is James Borelli. I'm the architect for the owners who are with us today, Jim and Maria Rios, the owners of the subject property. As an architect, I knew this was going to be a tough one as soon as they came to me. It's a postage stamp lot that is unusually small. I don't think I've ever done a project on a lot smaller. It's 33 feet wide by 60 feet deep. So just to look at the depth issue alone, if we were to conform to the 20-foot setback in the front, which we are doing, which already counts against us even 2 more feet because we have to do it from the edge of the pavement. Edge of the pavement is 2 feet in from the property line, and then come in 20 feet from the back, I would be left with a building footprint of about 18 feet deep. 18 feet's about from here to here, I'd say, somewhere in here. You might want to challenge me on that. That'd be the whole building, the entire house. So, of course, we started talking to staff about what would be a reasonable request here. And as Lucille already pointed out, we did talk about perhaps getting some room to move in the front. But then you start getting into parking problems, and it is a narrow road. So you start to have perhaps an issue with vehicles not being able to pull safely off the road when they're parked in the driveway. So we chose to just have a conforming 20-foot setback and not try to address that issue, but we definitely needed some help in order to get a little bit of a building footprint that we could work with here. So what we're proposing is a 9'6" rear setback instead of the 20 feet. It's 7 feet further back from the rear property line than the existing little cabin is now. So we're actually moving further and further away from those planned unit development units behind us at Tahoe Glen. So we're improving that situation. Oh, I'm sorry. And then just a couple of other things that we are providing that the existing condition doesn't have. The county encourages having a garage, at least a one-car garage. And by the way, if we were stuck with that 18-foot depth to work with, I couldn't even do a conforming garage because a conforming garage has to be 20 feet deep.
Mr. Borelli, could you speak into the microphone, please, for the record?
Sorry, I keep doing that. Let alone having any space left for other things like, you know, an entry at the lower level and a stairway to get you up and all that. We have conforming off-street parking. Again, like I said, we have increased the distance from the rear. So I think what we have is a good project for the area. And you know, all these homes are relatively small, and so is this one. Of course, it's going to be small because it's on a tiny lot. My clients do not rent the property, and they intend to use it as a full-time primary residence. If there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Ken?
I had one question. I looked at Google Earth and I looked at the neighborhood from the satellite image, and I noticed that there were several other larger homes in that neighborhood. Can you tell me if those are 2-story, 3-story, or?
Predominantly 2-story. You know, everyone else, or most of the other parcels have, you know, a considerable amount of lot area to work with. So a 2-story configuration will accommodate, you know, a medium-sized, moderate-sized residence.
Paul?
Mr. Borelli, does the anticipated driveway allow for 2 cars to be parked plus one in the garage?
The existing, the proposed driveway.
Proposed.
Proposed front of the garage is, as required by setback, is 20 feet in from the edge of the pavement. And it's a single-car width driveway because it's a single-car garage. So there'd only be space for 1 car in the driveway.
All right. Would you agree with me that the lots across the street from the subject property are wider and longer?
If Lucille could get that map up, I believe you're correct, yes.
Those as,
The one,
Oh, this?
yes.
yeah.
33 these are 40.
Now, my perception is, as I was at the lot, so I can tell everyone and explain what I saw, is that on Lyons Avenue across the street from the subject parcel, most of them were 2-story. 1 or 2 of them were very high 2-story. And on the same side of the street of Lyons, there already exists, up from the subject property, several 2-story properties. So in other words, they have very small profiles from a plan view, but the elevation is a 2-story house. So it's similar to this. I guess what I'm getting at is I'm in agreement with our planner that your design matches what exists in the current neighborhood.
I would agree.
Any other questions for the applicant? Kirk?
Madam Chairman, the packet page, this was in your addition to the packet, so I don't think there's page numbers on all these, but the probably about 135, which is the site and the roof plan. I'm not sure if it, yeah, it's A 1.2 of the Borelli architecture submission. It's very small, and in the bottom right-hand corner, it says parking 2 covered spaces required, 1 covered space proposed. Is that a correct interpretation of what code is, or is there something I'm missing on that explanation at the bottom of the page?
Code does require 2 covered spaces. We're proposing 1. We simply don't have the ability to provide 2.
And Lucille, is that something that we need to add to the conditions or the approval that we're giving, or is that something we can just note for reference?
For the record, Lucille Rayo, no, that can be accomplished through a minor variance process. It's the property and development standards that gives the community development director ability to approve any changes to property and development standards.
Thank you. That's a minor variance. And then again, Mr. Borelli, in your submission packet page 131, you talk about the project description and the parcel site and the configuration. I'm slightly confused because on the project description, the second bullet says, construct new 1,549 square foot 3-story residence with a 250 square foot single car garage, attached garage. And then later on in the parcel size, the last sentence there, you say the maximum size home that this unusually small site will accommodate is only 1,409 square feet. Can you explain what the difference between the square footage is in those 2 portions of your submission?
That is a typographical error that I apologize for. Did we talk about this one, Lucille, or? But the correct square footage is 1,549, and I apologize for that.
Thank you.
Paul?
One question, Mr. Borelli. I do not know which side, and we'll find out, of the property towards the rear the Jacobs property is. I don't know which side that is on.
I just saw that letter myself for the first time today, so I don't know.
And I didn't see it because I didn't even know of the letter.
The letter seems to indicate that she indicates that she's directly behind us.
But I don't think that's the case, but we'll
Yeah.
find out because I don't remember that address, which is why I asked the questions.
Yeah,
However.
I'm sorry I
that's-
don't have a better answer to that.
But that said, there are, as I see it, on the south elevation, 2 windows virtually at head high, and then the raked windows that you have above. The raked windows, I don't think, provide any difficulty with privacy. But on the west elevation, there is one very large window and the 2 windows in the south elevation that open into the living area, the family room area. And is there any objection to making those obscure to the extent that the house in question where the objection is directly opposite those windows?
So you're concerned about side windows?
No, sir. The west side has 1 window towards the corner. Do you see
Right.
what I'm speaking of? In the rear of the building.
Right.
And if the complaining party, the way to get rid of that objection would be to obscure that window if in fact they are to the west of the building. And I don't know.
I can't imagine that window being a problem for them.
Well,
As
the
far
other,
back
the
as
other-
we're gonna
if
be,
they're
I-
directly behind, there are 2 windows at head high, and there's a door that's glass. or
Right.
Indicated glass, and that may look directly into the neighbor. I realize that the setbacks are very close. I will go so far as to say that you are improving the setback on what has been called the Little Tahoe House, which is what you're going to be
Right.
building over. And that setback from the property line is probably less than 3 feet,
It's 2.5 feet, correct.
2.5.
The existing condition.
Yes, but now it's going to be 3 stories. That's just why I
Right.
have the
I
concern.
believe those windows at the upper floor are going to be looking at their roof.
No, not the ones on the second, the third. You think they're looking at the
That's what,
roof?
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. The topmost floor, the windows on the south elevation that would look at the Tahoe Glen unit
Yes,
would basically be looking straight out at their roof.
because it is a 2-story building.
Right.
All right, sir.
Hopefully
I
that-
didn't get on a cherry picker, so I can't tell you if that's the case.
I put on snowshoes to go post the sign.
Nothing further, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, can you turn off your microphone, please?
Oh, sorry.
David, you have a question?
Just some comments about this. I understand the age of the property. I could use a rebuild myself at this point, but I do have a concern because we can't say definitely that this will never become a VHR. And if it does, I do see a problem with parking. If it becomes a VHR and it has 3 bedrooms, so that would give us 6 tenants, and plus 2, if that stays in place, would give us 8. I know that people don't like, they travel in couples mostly. And if they're looking at 8 people, 4 couples, they don't want to give up their freedom of not having their car with them. So I think you have a problem with possible parking if it ever becomes a VHR. And I would prefer to see this be a 2-bedroom and maybe make a 2-car garage and have 4 parking places rather than having a bedroom downstairs and the living being the center section. But that's just an opinion of my part. I always take into consideration the letters that we receive from people. I think if they take the time to write those letters, we need to read them carefully and make sure that that we're perhaps helping them out with their problem. And the 3 stories for this is a little of an issue for me too. But that's my comments on that. And I don't know what the design people can do to solve these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Mr. Borelli, what are the current dimensions of the structure that exists?
Oh, boy, I do not have that. The actual width and depth of the existing cabin.
Yes, I was trying to decide, okay, 300 square feet, what is that?
Oh, the square footage? The existing cabin is, that square footage is in your packet.
I
And
know
it's,
it's 300 square feet, but what is that, 10 by something or
10 by 30.
15 by, what is it, David?
10 by 30 would be 300 square feet.
yeah, I'd say the frontage at the front I'd say about 20 feet.
Thank you. And,
The width at the front, I'm sorry.
okay, thank you. Are there any more questions for the applicant? Bryce?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a question for the applicant. I just want to make a comment. I agree with Commissioner Nelson that we should take public comment seriously, as I do every time. I think in this particular case, I want to thank staff for the presentation because I think we've addressed some of the public's concern in that. I think this particular project, we're actually moving away. It's closer today than it will be. I think from a height perspective that it is conforming with the adjacent houses in the area. And so, with respect to design criteria and that, I trust and leave that to staff. We have design guidelines, and I'm sure that that this particular project will have to follow those as they go through the process. So I want to thank the public for their input. It has been reviewed.
Can I interrupt? We haven't gotten to public comment yet.
I'm talking about the written public
Oh,
comment,
okay.
sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borelli.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to open for public comment.
I had, I heard from Lucio that there were 2 public comments and only see 1.
There's one in the packet.
Oh, okay, thank you.
If there are no objections, I'll open public comment. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak? Yes, sir. Come to the podium and sign in, please. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Yarain Flossfeld. I'm just across the street from the proposed development in 214 Lyons. I did do a written response as well. I'll just kind of summarize that a little bit and add some additional concern. I concurred with Commissioner Nelson in terms of the overall nature of a 3-story building as well as potential for vacation rental issues. We have 5 of those on the street today. So originally when I made my response, just the size of the project was what I had initially objected to. My property is 816 square feet on a lot size that's 50% larger than theirs, than what they're proposing on there. We do have some larger homes in the neighborhood. You can count them on one hand, maybe less. And they're all on lots that are at least 50% to 100% larger to support that level of square footage. The 2-story houses across the street, they tend to run 11 to 1,300 square feet. So nothing is of that size, really, and there's not a single one of them that's 3 stories high. So now you're proposing to put a 3-story building in an area that has the smallest homes of Lyons Avenue. My immediate neighbors to the west are 300, 400, 900 square feet. The one across the street is 600. So what I don't want to see is what's happened on Tahoe Glen. A bunch of really tall structures with very minimal space between them, all stacked up like townhomes. And that's the problem, right? I have a much larger lot, 800 square feet. Do I want to go up and make it 1,600 square feet or 1,800 square feet? I guess it could. We could go that way if this continues. So to your point about precedence, I think very much so. It sets a precedence for people essentially maximizing their lot size for generating income, whatever it is, right? But it really changes the nature of the neighborhood as it is now. It's a small neighborhood with modest homes. So the 1,500 and some square feet on that size lot just doesn't fit what our neighborhood is. Something on the lines of 2 stories would be much more palatable than, or even a 1 story. Certainly Mr. Borelli talks about 18 feet being long. My house is 20 feet by 40 feet. So you can do a modest home in a much smaller form factor than what's being proposed here. So those are kind of my issues I can't tell how I'm doing on time here, by the way. Okay. So that's generally.
No back and forth.
Hi, my name's Matthew Goodwin. I'm the property directly above 211. And my biggest concerns right now are my view being taken away from me with a 3-story building. On top of that, this last winter, because of the snow load, I'm right now replacing my propane or my natural gas meter. So with all the big houses, especially the one that just popped up behind me, you know, there's not a lot of places for that snow to go. There's definitely no parking, and really right now I'm in a tiny home, and the only thing I really got going for me is my view, and I would really appreciate to keep some of that. I get it, you know, it's Tahoe and all that stuff. That makes sense, and it's exciting to see something go forward, but you know, it'd be nice if I could retain some view of the lake, because I'm probably going to be the last and only 1-story building still on that side of the street. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I apologize. Are you in the photograph to the west of the property, that 1-story? Yes.
Yeah, so I'm right above. Yeah, that's me. That's an older picture. I just put a new roof on, and I'll be redoing the outside. Me and my wife and my 2 children. Yeah, we stay there. It's our permanent residence, but right now we're living somewhere else because my gas meter's gone.
So your view is actually out the front, and it would be to the east a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
So if the house was set back 20 feet, which is the intention, it doesn't look like it would impair your view.
I did some kind of guesstimated measurements, and anything past 13 feet will start taking some of my view. You know, as long as I have my front window seeing the lake, you know, I could work with that. I understand, like I said, but, you know, definitely the snow load, you know, having something that high, what's the pitch of the roof gonna be? Is it all gonna end up on my property? That kind of stuff very much concerns me too. So,
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any more public comment? Seeing no one rise. No. You get 3 minutes. Okay.
I just want to make a comment about, and again, Lucille and all of you are the experts, but we came here today to have a proposal for the reduction of the rear setback considered. And then there are certain findings that you need to make and so forth in order to decide whether or not that should be granted. Now I'm hearing problems with building height, and I'm hearing problems with, oh gee, maybe we're too far forward even though we're conforming to the 20-foot front setback. So I'm feeling a little frustrated that maybe we're losing focus of what the request is, which is just simply whether or not a reduction of the rear setback should be granted for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Rios. Please sign in and state your name for the record.
Maria Rios, homeowner to the parcel number that you have on your packets, title owner. So I understand and I do appreciate my neighbor's concerns. I respectfully say that. Thank you for coming and everyone here. But I know there was a comment from Dave, I believe, that's on Zoom, that talked about having a 2-bedroom home. So we have 3 children and hopefully grandkids later. We do plan on occupying our property full-time as our primary residence. You can't really live in that home comfortably the way it is now. My husband's about to retire this year, and I will be retiring next year from our professions. And we do plan, Lake Tahoe was a place where we would always come with our children. Every year we would come to Lake Tahoe, and we loved it. For years, my son and my daughters are in their late 20s now. So, and they are looking forward to this project. We need the 3-bedroom to accommodate our family, and it will be for our family and for our use. But this is where we plan on retiring. Just wanted to make that clear. The property is not being rented. We are being confused, nor it's not being rented. This is going to be our primary home. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment and return it to the commissioners. Lucille, question. When we went by yesterday on our way back from the VHR hearing at the Hard Rock, there was no sign posted on the front porch about the public hearing today. I didn't see it. Tom, did you? No.
For the record, Lucille Rea, we do have a photo of the noticing. I believe we had sent that to Kirk. He had a question. I think he may have gone there and didn't see it. It was posted on the, I think Colleen, are you looking for, she might be looking for it. Yeah, we know it was posted. They did send us a picture.
Is it not supposed to stay posted until the hearing date?
Recording in progress.
For the record, Lucille, yes, it's supposed to stay up there. I don't know if there was bad weather or wind. I can't speak to that.
I did post the sign immediately after the seal asked for it. They have blown down.
Cynthia?
Cynthia Gregory from the Douglas County District Attorney's Office. This has come up a number of times. The obligation is to post it. They provide proof of posting. Now, what happens after that, we can't guarantee. We've had weather. We've even had people arguably tear it down on purpose, trying to delay the meeting. So they have met the requirements because they did post it and did provide proof of that. So that isn't an obstacle to this item moving forward today. Just in terms of the findings, if I can address the VHR issue at this point, whether or not it's going to be a VHR in the future, that's speculative and that doesn't factor into the findings at this point in time. And even if it did, parking's a separate issue that's based on the size of the garage, not on the occupancy. So those are two separate issues. Additionally, in the state of Nevada, you have no right to a view. And that's just our law. We're a little bit different than California. And so if you want a view guaranteed, you would need to buy a view easement. That comes up routinely because not only up at Tahoe, but we have Job's Peak and the beautiful mountain ranges. And that's in Nevada. There's no guaranteed right to a view. And so with that, I just wanted to clarify that. And that's all I have at this point. Thanks.
Bryce?
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion if that's acceptable.
Yes. We can do a motion and then have discussion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve development application DP 23-0013 for James Borelli Architecture representing Jim and Maria Rios, a major variance to reduce the required 20-foot rear yard setback to a 9-foot 6-inch setback in the R-063 zoning district in the Tahoe planning area based on the discussion in the staff report and the ability to make the required findings.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Bryce and a second by Paul. Is there discussion? Paul?
Notwithstanding, and I appreciate the fact that there is no view easement in Nevada, I think that a view is very valuable. I listened to the comments of the neighbor, and I went to the site and I took a look. and I looked at what it would be to have a 20-foot setback for the start of the building, I think you will retain your view because there is a view almost standing from the first floor. There will be a magnificent view from the Rios' property of the lake, but I think it's still retained for the western neighbor. So while I'm concerned there is no legal requirement, I think that everyone is going to be satisfied in that regard. The second thing I'd just like to point out is, and I made the comment earlier, it does seem to have the character of the neighborhood. So it is not that I did not listen to the other neighbor that came in and said that the buildings are not so high. Even the 2 stories, as they go up the elevation, seem to be much higher. And therefore, I think the character of the neighborhood is maintained, and I commend staff with respect to the findings for this substantial variance.
Kirk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to echo Paul's comments on a number of points, and Bryce as well. We do take public comment very seriously, and I'm always waiting to make a decision until the last minute, till I've heard all public comment, because I think it's important that those concerns can be addressed. But I think Cynthia made some very good points about we're not here to discuss the size of the parcel. We're not here to discuss the number of stories or speculate on what might happen in the future on this particular property. We're here to deal with the facts. And I would point to my colleagues, page 127 of the packet, the variance findings. I think those are very important. I did also visit the location, as did Maureen and Paul. So I saw firsthand, particularly in variance finding number 1, by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of the property in question. I also believe that finding number 2 can be met. The conditions do not apply generally to other properties in the same land use district. And then also condition or finding 3, the granting of the variance will not result in material damage or prejudice to other properties in the vicinity. So I concur with my 2 colleagues who have made this motion and seconded this motion that this is a appropriate granting of a variance.
David, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I do. I find it to be just a little bit of a non-conforming situation here with the 3 stories. However, we're really just dealing with the setback, and I'm okay with the setback. Thank you.
I waited until the very last moment. I wanted to hear the public, and going by the property, I don't like the 3 stories. I have no problem with the design. I am unhappy with the way the neighborhood transitions from the 2 small properties, the single stories, into this 3-story thing, then back down to single story. I find that excessive. I think it will block the winds. I'm not happy, but I also recognize that we are a planning board. We are not a policy board. Or we are a planning board. We're not a policy board, and that's something that's left to the policy board to determine. A lot of the quality of life issues are not our purview, and that frustrates me tremendously. And we are, what's in front of us now is a variance. We're not designing a subdivision. And they have to go to TRPA, and it's up to TRPA to decide whether or not they will allow this to go forward. And then it'll come back to us, or to the planning department. So I have no problem with the variance at this point, and I'm going to put my faith in TRPA. So before us, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark Neddenripp is absent. Motion passes.
Didn't know if there were any nays.
There are no.
I didn't get to vote because I still wanted to say something.
Oh, Ken, sorry.
I'm going to vote yes for this because of the setback, and that's the only reason we're doing it is for this variance. But I agree with the neighborhood remaining small, and hopefully that they'll restructure this building to be more compatible with the neighborhood. And that's all I really got to say.
Thank you, Ken. And you have a, okay, motion passes. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Recording stopped. David, are you there?
Yes.
Perfect. We will start again.
Recording in progress.
I'll call this meeting of the Planning Commission back and read the agenda item into the record. For possible action, discussion to approve the draft minutes of the March 14, 2023, oops, wrong one. I'm looking at the agenda the wrong way. For possible action, discussion on revisions to the Douglas County Planning Commission bylaws, including Section 3, meetings, study session, agendas, and staff reports. Cynthia Gregory.
Thank you. Cynthia Gregory from the Douglas County District Attorney's Office. I am back in front of you because in February of 2023, you reviewed your bylaws, and one of the sections that you requested to be updated had to deal with placing items on the agenda. The thought or the takeaway that I had was you wanted it to be a little bit cleaner, a little bit tighter. So I have drafted some language. It is contained within the background. There is a spelling error. I apologize for that on consultation. However, in the attachment, which is what your bylaws would look like should you adopt this, it is spelled correctly. I'm happy to answer any questions. It is up to you. These are your bylaws. If they don't make sense, we can change them again. I can come back to you. You can keep the language as is. Really, this is your document and it needs to work for you. And so I'm just here to get your feedback. And if you want it changed, I'm more than happy to do that.
Questions, comments from the commission? Bryce.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's much cleaner. I think Maureen had some concerns about this. I'll leave it to you as to whether it addresses some of those concerns. But to me, I think it's clean. It addresses what the intent was, and so I'm happy with it.
David, do you have anything?
No, I'll listen to what you have to say first.
Well, my issue was that before the language was very vague and there was no clarity on how exactly items got on the agenda. It was very ethereal that any planning commissioner could put something on the agenda, but it didn't specify how that happened. And since the chair does discuss things with the community development director, the director is really the one who sets the agenda with staff. And the items that a planning commissioner might want to put on the agenda, there's no telling how long it might take to assess how long it would be before that item gets put in the agenda, and is it put on the agenda for discussion, for a decision by the rest of the planning commission to decide if that goes on the agenda, or what's the whole process? So this makes it cleaner, I think. Your thoughts?
Yes, okay, thank you. I want to make it cleaner, and I think this does. Like, for instance, I think that we need to discuss Title 20 at some point in time and how we can adjust Title 20 to maintain the rural character that most of us want to keep in Douglas County. But that's just an example of something I might want to put on the agenda.
And I can assure you that community development staff is working hard, actually around the clock, to bring Title 20 up to snuff and bring it back to us. And I did receive, following this language, Mark Neddenrip sent an email requesting to be put on the agenda, TDRs. And he followed the steps, sending one to me, and then I sent it to Tom Delaire, and Tom Delaire's reviewing it and is going to bring it to the Planning Commission. So already it's starting to work, and it's much cleaner that way. So if this language is appropriate and meets with the approval of the rest of the Planning Commission, then I will open this up if there's no further discussion for public comment. Paul?
There is one thing I'd like to say, and that is well drafted. Usually in the first stroke, you don't get modifications to rules or procedures precisely correct. Excellent job. Nicely done.
There are no other comments. I'll open it for public hearing or public comment. Seeing no one rise, I will close public comment and bring it back to us. Bryce?
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion. I move to approve the revisions as presented to the Douglas County Planning Commission bylaws, Section 3, specifically to paragraph 3.7.1 regarding placement of topics on Planning Commission agendas as drafted by the District Attorney's Office.
We have a motion by Bryce,
Seconded.
second by Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have unanimous vote. Mark Neddenrip is absent. Now I'd like to open for closing public comment. Seeing no one rise, I will close public comment and bring it back to the commissioners. Is there any discussion? Ken? Nothing to say? Seeing nothing, I will close this meeting of the Planning Commission at 2:20 p.m. Thank you all.
Recording stopped.
Thank you.